In this episode, the conversation briefly touches on suicide, which could be upsetting. If you or somebody you know is struggling, you can find some useful links in our show notes for more help or advice. Have you missed me, guys? Because I have missed you. I'm so happy to be back with another episode of Toni Told Me. If you're unsubscribed, please make sure you do. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening to this on your favorite audio platform, please subscribe to the podcast. We really love all the engagement we're getting, and we're so thankful that you're enjoying the pod. Today, I want to talk about happiness. I want to talk about living a happy life, if we can really be frequently happy, if that's just a facade, or whether there are some tips and tricks that we can apply to our own lives to improve our sense of happiness. And with me today is a creator and an author that I absolutely admire. I adore this person so much. The one and only David Larbi.
Hello, that was the nicest introduction ever.
I'm so gassed to have you on the pod because I've been following you for a while and you are a ray of sunshine on the internet. Like, I look at your content and I just feel immediately better, whether it's like a little poem that you've come up with on a walk, or whether you're enjoying a sunny day, or whether you just got your hair done and you're sharing that with us. Like, you are just a burst of just like joy. And it's amazing. I love that.
That means everything to because that's everything that I'm trying to be.
On that topic, have you always been like a happy person, David? Like, because I just feel like your whole vibe, your whole aura is just joy.
It's so interesting because I haven't always felt like I'm a particularly happy person, but
Really?
especially since doing content and content being my full-time career and then writing the book, all my friends who have known me for a long time have always said, yeah, like in school, that's how you were known. That's how we always looked at you. Like you were the happy guy.
You're the happy guy.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So on that, what have you been up to before we get into the nitty gritty? How's life treating you? Obviously, you've got a new book out.
Yes.
I'm going to be your like QVC poster girl for this episode. Frequently happy. How was it like getting this out? This must have been surreal.
It was incredible. I mean, writing the book, the process of writing was probably the happiest time of my life. Like
I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, I loved it. If I could write for the rest of my life, I would. I mean, for those who don't know, my content generally is poetry and reflections. And the book, which is called Frequently Happy, 52 Mindful Moments to Bring Hope and Joy. Each chapter has a poem, a reflection, and a journal prompt with space to write for the reader. Because this book, once you get it, the idea is it's yours. Like I've done what I need to do. It's a space for you to feel whatever you need to feel. Take those notes and refer back to it whenever you need just that boost of happiness.
I noticed that in the book. Like I've known you to be quite a reflective person, but in the book, like the level of reflection that you go into, whether it's like you querying an experience that you had as a child, or you questioning how you feel in a certain climate, or you questioning why you might question something else. Like there's a lot of reflection in this. And I love that you have the like journal element of the book so people can also add in their reflections. And one thing I got from the book as well, the overwhelming sense of gratitude. Like you just seem like a very grateful person. And I can't lie, in what I've read so far, I felt like I need to step my game up because I'm not being as gratuitous in life as I could be, to be completely honest.
No, you are from Mike's, but you are a very grateful person.
Okay, that means a lot.
And you pour back into a lot of other people, which I think is, in a practical sense, the mark of a very grateful person. Someone who appreciates what they have is someone who's very ready to give to others, and you're a very giving person generally. But in terms of me being grateful, I think it's the whole ethos behind my book, behind my content, behind everything I do is my belief is of every human being, you matter because you exist. And by virtue of your existence, you deserve a happy existence. You don't need to have a certain level of things. You don't need to have a certain level of money. You don't need to have this job. You don't need to exist in this space to matter. You matter already by default. And one of the biggest barriers to our own happiness, I think, is simply feeling undeserving of it. Even when it comes down to things like you get something, say someone buys a car and then you go onto social media, you see someone else with a better car, you suddenly feel like this car isn't worth being happy about because people have better cars. It's you feeling unworthy of the good things that you have already in your life. And one of the things that used to hold me back from feeling like a happy person, even though other people would have observed me as one, was the constant narrative in my head that I can't enjoy my life yet because I'm not at this level, because I don't have this, because I don't have this. And being able to break through that and realizing that there's genuinely nothing too small to be happy about is what's made me a much happier person. And I think that's someone everyone else deserves.
What, can we just reel this whole entire monologue back for a second? Let's like break this down, because are you hearing this, producer Nisha?
I'm hearing it.
When you said that you matter by virtue of simply existing, you matter because you exist. I love that. It was very philosophical. I was thinking of like René Descartes. I don't know if you ever studied philosophy. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. It was given, I matter because I exist, like a philosophical quote, right? It was very philosophical. But I love that you said that. Because you're right. A lot of our happiness, again, you broke it down when you said that many of us feel undeserving and unworthy of happiness. And that even seeps into the level of gratitude we show and feeling like, you know what we have is not enough. Just hearing you break it down like that, I'm like mind blown, because it's so true. We exist as we are, living, breathing, no clothes on our body, no fancy anything, fancy house, fancy car. Just as human beings, we matter. Because we exist, we matter. And that should be enough. We need to get into this more in the sisterhood spotlight. But before we get into that, we have Tea Time with Toni. So Tea Time with Toni is where we answer some dilemmas. So today is giving Tea Time with Toni and David, of course. And producer Nisha, so our wonderful producer behind the scenes, she always has the dilemmas for us. And she gives us 2 dilemmas every week. I hope you're ready to answer some dilemmas, David.
I'm super ready. It's so nice that you took the time to explain this to me, not realizing I'm a fan. So I was ready.
So you're ready.
I was hoping.
I love that you like know how it goes and that you're listening. You know what? That's more than could be said for a future guest of mine that you will hear from next week. My own brother. Anyway, I digress. Producer Nisha, can you hit us with some dilemmas?
So our first dilemma says, "Hi Toni, I say this as someone who, dependent on what's going on, talks to my friends sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, sometimes bi-weekly.
Okay.
It depends on what's going on. I feel like when I was younger, college/university, I used to talk to my friends daily/constantly. Now in my 30s, I talk to them mainly weekly/bi-weekly, though it can be daily if something is cracking off in our lives that week. What's your thoughts? Should we be talking to our besties every day, or is it normal for this to change as we get older?"
Do you speak to your friends every day, David?
Certain friends, yes. But I think it very much comes down to logistics. I think as an adult, I mean, the stages of life that the person mentioned, kind of college, school, university, one of the best parts of those parts of life is that your friends are so readily accessible. They're just around. They're around. Like at university, you could text someone at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday and be like, "Oh, you on this?" And 10 minutes later, you'll be together.
Yeah.
Whereas now, everything takes so many logistics, so much organization, and everyone's got so many things to deal with that actually one of the best facets of a good friendship is understanding. Is if I haven't heard from you for a couple of days, I know it's because there's something else going on. And if it was something that required an immediate response, I'd reply. Like if I was talking to someone daily, it would be because there's something going on that we're both involved in, or I actively need them to mess me back. We're working out logistics when we're going to meet next, all that kind of stuff. But if it's just, I had an acai bowl yesterday, and you're the person who reminded me to me. If you don't reply to me for 2 days, I can live with that. I just wanted you to know. Get back when you can. I don't think that diminishes our friendship anymore. I think, in fact, it's a stronger friendship when I don't have to worry about that.
I completely agree with you. I think understanding is definitely like a key part of sustaining a friendship as an adult. And like this person said, they're 30. Our friendships evolve to match the time of our life we are in. We have different responsibilities. We have different priorities. Some people are just working all the time. Some people are married. Some people have children. Some people have whole families, right? So we're all at different in our 30s. All of a sudden, it's very clear regarding like the stages of our lives we're in and how different those stages are. And Teko, what you said, like when you're in school, everyone's in school. When you're in uni, everyone's in uni. When you're 30, everyone is not living in their 30s the same way. Even in your 20s, everyone is not doing it in the exact same way. So like applying grace, I think, is super important. And I'm like you. I don't speak to my friends every day. My best friend, I think I speak to her every other day. So we do speak quite frequently. But again, if I'm doing something that relatively mundane, or I just want to gist with her about something that is like unimportant and she doesn't get back to me immediately or even on the same day, that's fine. I'm totally cool with that. But if it's an emergency, okay, the terms have changed slightly. Like, you better be in reach. I need to speak to you. Or when it's juicy gist, you know when you have gist that's so juicy, you gotta pick up your damn phone. I need to gist you. I need to talk to you about this thing.
But even in those circumstances, I'm assuming that you feel comfortable saying, listen, you need to hear this now. Pick up your phone.
I will call her out.
It's that level of communication. And the way that this dilemma was phrased, I haven't got it wrong, but it very much sounds like it's not an active, am I good enough friends with my friends? It's more wondering. It's more wondering. And I think it's obviously healthy to question things, but generally I try not to, if something is working, I'm not going to question it too much. Whether or not in an ideal scenario, is this the right or wrong thing? If it's working for both of us, what's the question?
So I'm happy to go with that. That's the answer. Like, if you're happy with the frequency of communication and your friends haven't complained, then that's what friendship is about. Like, showing grace.
I also feel like the strongest friendships, like you said, it's like, I don't have to communicate with you every single day. I love you the same way. Like, I could not speak to one of my friends for like months on end. Yeah. But then when we do speak, nothing's changed. Yeah. The friendship is still the same. The love is still the same. It's all good. Like, you don't need to worry like, oh my God, I've not spoken to Anisha for 3 months. Like, it's okay. I'm not going to be like, don't you dare message me.
I feel like with stuff like that though, you need to be on the same page, definitely. Yeah. Because some friends require more attention than other friends. They demand more attention.
I'm that friend that requires more attention. My best friend knows this, because me and my best friend, we speak every single day. And if she doesn't reply to me, I'm like, so what? I'm dead then. Like, you don't care about my welfare.
That's like, I'm not a friend that requires a lot of attention. I'm very independent, sometimes to a fault. You guys know this. I say this all the time. My best friend is someone that requires more attention. But in being my best friend for so long, we've been best friends now for what, just over 15 years, we have come to a place that David mentioned of understanding, because she knows, I know how Toni is and I know how Karina is. So I'm like, okay, let me increase my communication to meet her in the middle. And then she decreases her preferred communication to meet me in the middle. So we're still talking frequently, like I said, like every other day. But if we had it her way, I'll probably be speaking to her 4 hours a day, every day, right? And we have another dilemma, don't we?
Yes,
dilemma number 2.
Dilemma number 2. Hi, Toni. I've really been enjoying your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for putting it on YouTube. Woo, woo, woo.
Woo, woo.
My question is about friendships. Okay. I have a friend who isn't a bad person, but I just feel like we have grown apart. I don't want to maintain the friendship because our lives are moving in 2 different directions, and I just don't relate to her anymore. Am I a bad person for this? Is this normal? I'm so torn because we have been friends for a while, but the friendship is no longer something I want.
David, I want to pick your brain. Have you ever been in a friendship and felt like you've grown apart? I don't want to use the word outgrown. I know some people will say that, but it's like, who defines who's outgrown who? If you've both grown apart, in her mind, maybe, or his mind, maybe he's outgrown or she's outgrown you. So have you ever been in a friendship and felt like you have grown apart, that the friendship doesn't meet the needs and wants that you once had?
Yes.
Okay. How did you navigate? Multiple. How did you navigate that?
I went to multiple secondary schools.
Okay.
I did English and French university, which meant I did a year abroad. Okay. So I did 2 years, did another year. All my friends graduated, came back and made new friends when all my friends had gone. So I've got groups from loads of different times.
Are you a social butterfly? You've got loads of friends.
I've got a lot of people I have a lot of love for. Yeah.
I love really that.
Nice. And that just means that, there are friendships that I think as well, when circumstances change and when you grow up and you're in different spaces, you realize that some friendships were we were this close because we were around each other. But when we're in these different spaces, it actually doesn't work out the same. And it's really difficult to navigate, because as you said, even the term outgrown, it almost implies that someone's done something wrong or someone's not keeping up, whereas it's literally just difference. And I have one friendship, which is my benchmark for how I deal with those situations with one of my very, very closest friends. We've been friends since we were 4. We went in nursery.
Oh, wow.
And they moved to New Zealand, came back. And a couple of years ago when I was in content, I'd started content as my full-time job. and I got to go to New York for work, and Tiffany, my fiance, her passport needed renewing, so she couldn't come with me. So I took that friend.
Okay.
And as I said, friends since we were 4, knows everything about my life. We know each other's families, all that kind of stuff. And we argued so much on this trip. We argued so much on this. And holidays can put us straight on,
Oh my
on the best of
God.
friendships.
Yes, I have a video about that. Like, you could really know a lot about the state of a relationship or friendship when you travel together.
Yeah.
And we realized that the last day we sat down and said, okay, right, why has this trip been like this? Which says a lot about our friendship as well. They could just honestly
you can communicate, yeah.
And we realized, we're putting so much pressure on this friendship because we expect it to be what it was at the beginning, which is you are my best friend in the whole wide world and everything should be swimming. We should never argue and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, do you know what? Let's give each other some space, take the pressure and the expectation off the friendship, and then let things unfold as they'll unfold. If you feel like message. If you want to meet up, let's meet up. And we've now settled into such a lovely place of low maintenance, communicate when we can, and that place of grace and understanding where, we're not joined at the hip anymore, but we're both different people in different places in our lives. So of course, our friendship looks different accordingly. And above all, the love we have for each other is so important that the logistics fall into place.
Okay.
And that's what it is. If the friendship is that strong and that real, then the love will supersede the logistics. If the logistics aren't falling into place and it's just not messing, at the moment, the love isn't there. And it's actually okay for us to go in our different directions. And if it's supposed to happen, we'll come back to it.
I think it is so important to entertain difficult conversations. We do it in relationships, romantic relationships, like why not do it in friendships? And you entertain a difficult conversation and it helped to improve the state of your friendship with that person. So yeah, I think like that was a beautiful example of how this person could approach it and sit down with their friend potentially. Hopefully they feel comfortable enough to do that and say, look, I've been having these feelings. I've been having these thoughts. I've known you for a while, but a part of me feels like we're growing apart. And in having that conversation, she might reveal something that highlights the root of the issue.
So you have to talk to them because no matter how intelligent you are, how good your imagination is, how well you know that person, until you literally have their perspective from them, you are filling in blanks from your own side.
Yeah.
And as you said, in a friendship is a wonderful thing. Any good thing comes with responsibilities, and your responsibility in a friendship is to create space for both of your feelings at any point.
If you have more dilemmas for us, please send them to us via email. Let me get the inbox right. Apologies, because we had a few issues with the inbox. But the correct inbox for future reference is tony@tonytoldmepod.com. And if you don't want to send an email, you can always hit us up via Instagram. The Instagram page is @TonyToldMePod. We've got producer Anisha in the DMs with the rest of our team. So we'll be looking out for your dilemmas there. Now it's time for the Sisterhood Spotlight. I would explain what this is, but by the sounds of it, David knows exactly what we're about to do.
I'm so locked in.
I'm glad you're locked in. I love that. Music to my ears. This is where we get into like the meat of our conversation and the crux of our conversation. I want to explore and touch on things we've touched on earlier in our chat, which is happiness, right? And what it looks like to be truly happy. And earlier you mentioned something about feeling deserving and how there are so many people who have the potential to be happy, but they feel like they are unworthy or they are chasing something else. In your book, you touched on comparison, right? And the impact of comparison on happiness. Like, do you want to explain that a little more to the people listening? Like, why do you think comparison is such a negative thing when it comes to maintaining happiness?
I don't think comparison is inherently negative.
Yeah.
Comparison is a hugely valuable tool. Without the examples of other people, without seeing what other people are doing, a lot of the time we don't even know what's possible ourselves.
Yeah.
We start off from a point of comparison and it's positive because it shows you what's possible. Too much of anything can become bad. And comparison can start as helpful, but then it can become a limiting factor in us actually appreciating the things that we have. I know the exact chapter you're talking about in the book as well. The poem in the chapter is, I wish that
thumbs.
Yes, I wish which is one of my favorite poems in the book. I wish that I was more like you, said the left hand to the right, not realizing they both had strengths, just thumbs on different sides.
Yes, I love that poem. Look at me, I'm so rubbish. The way I like narrowed it down to the thumbs, but I knew exactly which poem you were talking about. But I love it. No, that's such a great way to describe it. Like left hand being jealous of the right hand, but you are inherently the same. You just have like minor differences, and it was so succinct but so beautiful, and it was just such a warming way to consider comparison. Have you ever found yourself like comparing yourself negatively?
Hugely. I mean, firstly, I'm from an African background.
Oh yeah.
So
yep. Yeah.
So look at your mates. He's doing this. And it's woven into everything. But even it's one of those things that's outside of our control. Even in school, you have grade boundaries because it's compared to how everyone else did. Like you're always looking at other people's outcomes and results and all that kind of thing. And as I said, it can be very motivating, but also if you're not in a good place, very demotivating. And it's very hard to remove yourself from that, assess yourself and actually come to a conclusion where you're happy with the things that you're doing. So yeah, comparison is very helpful up to a point, but it's on us to kind of realize when, okay, whether this is motivating me or making me feel like I'm not good enough constantly. And to me, the underlying thought to any personal work I'm ever doing or anything I'm ever reaching for is that it has to come from a place of love. If it's coming from a place of me not liking myself or you can't bully yourself into being better, at least not sustainably. For a minute,
definitely not sustainable.
Not sustainably. You might have a great couple of weeks in the gym where you say, I need to drop this weight. But that's not something that's gonna, sustain you long term. Long term, it has to come from a place of, it's because I deserve better and want to be better, rather than I need to measure up to this person. On top of that, if comparison is our main motivating factor, we will never be there. Like we're never making it there. There's always something. There's always something. The cool idea of it is when you get to a level that you've been reaching for, you are able to access a level that you didn't know existed before that.
Oh my God, you're preaching right now. I never knew how broke I was until I started making money. Jesus is Lord. Like when I was in my 20s, right, living in my overdraft, life was good. Everyone was eating the same. We were just trying to navigate these streets in the same way, right? We're trying to get this money. We're trying to get this graduate job. We're trying to do what we do. You get the job. Everyone's kind of earning the same salary. When my earnings increased with age and with writing books and content creation, I had more money than I'd ever touched in my 20s. I never felt so broke because all of a sudden, like David said, I unlocked a new level of economic comfort, right? And then on that level, I was talking to people that were on a whole new level of economic comfort that I didn't realize existed when I was in my 20s living in my overdraft. So then I remember being in a place where I was like, bruh, this is how people are living. And it was like ignorance was bliss for me. And then I remember feeling like, oh my God, I don't have enough. I need to step my game up. I need to hustle harder. Meanwhile, I was earning more money than I'd ever earned in my life, but I was being harder on myself because I had access to this new level.
There we are. And that's where it all links back to feeling deserving, because it's so, and one of the biggest things I emphasize so much when I talk about these things and when I write about these things is that these things aren't our fault. They are our responsibility.
Yes.
Once you recognize it exists, you need to do something about it. But it existing is beyond you. Like it's not your fault. You know, you get into certain rooms and there's people wearing brands you've never heard of in your life because it wasn't even close to your tax bracket.
I remember when I learned how to pronounce Loewe. For the longest, I was saying Loewe, Loewe. I remember the day I learned how to pronounce Loewe. I said, wow, you people you fashionistas are really living life. Like, sorry, anyway, continue.
It's exactly that. Meanwhile, you were in these rooms you had dreamed of being in.
Yeah.
In a more comfortable position than you'd ever been in, not feeling like any of those things were true because you're looking elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to phrase it as looking up because it's not that that's above you. It's just, it's different.
Yeah.
But if at any point, because the whole question, money is a good one to look at because it's something that everyone constantly, everyone needs money all the time. Money gives you options.
Yeah.
Money gives you options. And the answer to the question, how much money is enough money? I remember someone asked John Rockefeller, one of the richest men ever, when he was like, someone asked him how much money is enough money. You know, all the richest people, you rub shoulders with everybody. In your experience, how much money is enough money for all the people, all the richest people you know? And he said a little bit more.
Oh, so there's never a limit.
It was always a little bit more. When I read that story, and I was, I think, 17 or 18 when I read that, and I thought, okay, my promise to myself is when I'm in a position where I don't have to think about my basic level of living, I can, go out and eat with my friends every week and not have to think about it.
Yeah.
Not thinking about rent. I can pay it whenever I need to, all that kind of stuff. At that point, I need to, at any given point, be able to look at my life and be content. Like, of course, I'm always going to be reaching for more because more exists and I'm aware it exists. But once your basic needs are taken care of, it's important that we're able to, at any point, sit and be able to be grateful for what we do have. Because if we can't do it on this level, the next level is not going to feel any different. And the next level is not going to feel any different. You have to be able to do it where you are now.
We can place so much emphasis on, I just need this car, I just need this house, I just need this bag, I just need this opportunity, I just need this partner, while forgetting that we have so much more to be grateful for outside of that.
One of the things in my personal belief that we get wrong is viewing contentment as the enemy of ambition. If I said to you...
say it again. Reel it back. Viewing what?
Viewing contentment as the enemy of ambition.
Yes, go into that. I want to hear more.
When I say someone is content, it sounds like, okay, that person isn't going to do anything else because they're happy where they are.
Yeah.
In practice, that is, this person is already happy where they are. So whatever more they get, they'll be even happier.
Yes.
And when I say there will always be more, I don't just mean that in a negative sense. I mean it in a very positive sense too. When you are content with what you have, it just it removes a certain level. Me, for example, career-wise, I'm super, super content in my career. I have a wonderful online community.
Yeah.
Literally everything that I get to do gives me and fills me with a sense of purpose, which is something I'm so blessed to have. Like I feel, it makes me feel wonderful. And every opportunity that comes my way, I look at it, I'm able to look at it for the first time in my life from a perspective of, does this add to what I'm able to provide to other people or does it not? And I'm very okay with saying no to things because there's going to be more. Yeah. It's almost to create that, the mindset of abundance comes from the fact that I'm already content. Yes. Even if I didn't have this, I'd be happy anyway. But I can have more and more will come. Whereas before, when I wasn't content, it's not even, it didn't come from a negative place. It did come from a place of, feeling like I should be ambitious and, I have these gifts, I should be using them in this way. But it was almost, there was a tinge of desperation to it. It's like, I need more to show that, I'm worthy of these places, I'm worthy of these things. And it's almost, you're forcing things, you're trying to make things happen. And even when things happen, it's all right, cool, box ticked, next thing.
Oh God.
Which is one of the worst places to live. It's exhausting. It's genuinely exhausting.
I've
genuinely
been there.
Exhausting.
And I wrote about this in my book, Take Note, about like how for the longest time, I really struggled to celebrate myself because I would achieve one task and to the outside world, it was a feat. It was amazing. I should have been so proud. I didn't even process it. I would tick it off. Okay, great. Smash that book. What's next? And I would do something else. I'd be like, smash that. What's next? And I really struggled to just take in the moment and to apply gratitude because I was constantly chasing the what is next. And I had to learn contentment after. It wasn't before that I had reached some success. It was after, because I felt that exhausting feeling that you're talking about. I felt like I was a rat in a wheel, just spinning. I remember like my friends asking like, oh, Toni, are you going to do a party for your book launch? I was like, party? No, I got things to do. I didn't do a book launch for my first book. And then my second book, they were like, oh, you're going to do like an event, a dinner? I was like, no, I got things to do. That's not important. I can wait. And obviously with like my third book coming out, I'm like, no, that party needs to happen. I need to actually just be content and just be like, wow, you really did that. You should be happy. You shouldn't just constantly be chasing. And I didn't.
And when you have that party,
is
it going to remove the desire to write again from you?
Yeah, it's not.
Of course not. Of course not. One of the biggest blessings we've been given, sometimes it feels really difficult, but one of the biggest blessings we've been given is that the passage of time is out of our hands. Things will move forwards whether or not we're making them move forward.
Yeah.
So sitting in the moment and marking the good moments and being content in the moment is not going to remove the scale of your ambition, and it's not going to remove opportunities from you. If anything, when they come, you'll be in even more of a place to take advantage of them because you're already happy with what you have. And you know you're building on that rather than, as you said, everything just passing you by and not being able to appreciate anything as it exists.
You are very wise. And I'm listening to you speak and I'm like, okay, this is someone who is clearly very reflective. I mean, I knew that already from like your book and following you online. And I want to ask you this, and this is, we're going to get vulnerable for a second because I have known and I know a lot of very reflective people. And they do a good job of giving advice to others. They do a good job of impacting the lives of others and contributing so much to other people, your community, like you said. You have a great sense of purpose. How do you navigate people looking after you and taking care of you? Do you have a lot of people you can go to that give you the level of support that you feel like you give other people?
I'm smiling because I knew that's where the question was going.
Sorry, I asked you this because I feel like people see me as an advice giver. And sometimes I feel like I give it, but do I get it in the same way? And I want to know, like, do you feel like you get it in the same way?
Historically, I haven't. But a lot of that was on me. And me not taking responsibility for myself. When you said earlier you're independent to a fault, snap.
We are all the same.
Recognize real. Do you know what it is? I think it's anything that, and you know this very well, anything that was a coping mechanism and was necessary at a certain time outlives its use.
Yes.
And I'm very much at the point where it became obsolete, but I was still acting like it was necessary.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm engaged to the most wonderful person on earth.
Oh, your fiance is so wonderful. We're going to get into that in a second. She's so lovely.
She's wonderful.
Do you think that is she a big part of that then? Like
huge. I mean, she's one of the people who's taught me most how to lean on the people who are around me, especially because to not lean on her is to, in a way, neglect our relationship. Because I'm not even allowing her the space in my life to provide me with that shoulder to cry on.
Yes.
And I think as a man as well, it can be very difficult because just the way society is structured is still, I mean, things are very different to how they used to be, but still, if you're on autopilot, things skew towards a patriarchal kind of structure. And in the time I was growing up, one of the things that was in my mind that I wasn't aware was there until I was in a healthy romantic relationship was, you know, you have to provide, you have to be the strong one, you have to be there all the time, which are, of course, I need to do those things. Being vulnerable is just as important because pretending that I don't feel these things or trying to deal with them all by myself doesn't exempt my partner from the impact of me going through those things and feeling these things. It just makes them feel shut out. And it doesn't even allow me to experience a relationship in its fullness and in its richness.
I'm so glad you said that because you are 100% right. And I think more men need to realize this, and hopefully people listening, please send it to your brothers, your uncles, your daddy, everybody, your man, everyone, because you're right. In not being vulnerable, you're doing a disservice to your relationship. You're not giving your partner the privilege of knowing you for exactly who you are, the privilege of being able to support you, the space to be a contributing like factor to your happiness, and also in your inability, like you said, to get that support or ask for help, it will spill out onto them negatively. And the fact that you recognize that is wonderful. But also when it comes to the happiness, sometimes I worry that like super happy people might feel pressure to be happy all the time.
Yes, this is a big one I encountered last year as well. I was dealing with a lot of health stuff, and as you know, health stuff kind of supersedes everything.
Yes.
As soon as something's not good health wise, is the only thing you can think about. And I was finishing the book at the time. I had deadlines to meet, and I felt like I was under a lot of pressure. And the subject matter of the book is frequently happy and being happy. Frequently happy, and I was not categorically was not. Equally, my fault. I hadn't even announced or told anybody publicly that I was even writing the book in the first place, and my content, the majority of it revolves around me being in a good mood and sharing what I'm happy about. So even then, I felt like I couldn't serve my community well enough, and it was, you know, those things that at the time super difficult. You reflect on it, you see the lessons. I see the lessons massively. True happiness, I believe, is allowing yourself to feel and filter every emotion you have. And then where you are able to make choices, choosing the thing that will truly serve your greatest sense of happiness. Not pretending that bad things don't exist in the name of acting like everything is good when it's not. And if I were to have stopped posting or not telling anyone what I was going through or pretend that nothing bad was happening, on the surface, when people consume my content, yes, they would have still maybe gone away feeling happy. But for me, just from a place of integrity, I am telling you something else. I'm giving you something that's not real. And I'm preaching something that I don't practice. And that's never something that I want to do. So last year was amazing for me because I shared from a place of a lot more vulnerability. And if anything, that deepened my bonds with my community. It made the book so much richer.
Yeah.
And taught me the very, very valuable lesson that you can be sad or down at times. It doesn't take away the fact that you are still generally a happy person. And everything you feel is equally valid. You need to give airtime to everything that you feel if you're ever to reach a true sense of happiness at the end of it.
It's so comforting to hear you say that, like happiness can exist outside a continuous state of joy.
Absolutely.
That happiness is in acknowledgement of all your human emotions and giving you the space, personal space and personal freedoms to experience all those emotions, to filter them out, to understand them, that is more gratifying than just being joyful all the time. It's so comforting to hear, because I think sometimes, I don't know if you've ever felt this, producer Nisha, do you ever like find yourself feeling guilty because you're not happy and you feel like, I have so much, I should be happy, why am I not happy?
100%. There's been times in my life where I've been going through stuff and you think like the world's ending and I'm like, oh my God, like nothing's good. But then I've come out the other side of it. I'm like, it was a shitty situation, yeah. But think about like all the other factors that were in that situation. Like I had great support from friends, parents. All of that is what makes you happy. Like having good people around you when you're going through situations, that is a part of the happiness. And I can look back at it now and be like, it was shit, but I was still happy at the same time because I had people to lean on.
That's the, I think, even with what Anissa just said as well, it reminded me of one of the ways that I look at these things is that everything is always layered. And as people, we deal with things by understanding them. We always want to understand the things we're going through. And emotions are some of the most complicated things that exist. And we want them to be as simple as, I'm happy, I'm sad. Sometimes you've got multiple, like you said, you've got multiple things go, like in this area of my life, it feels like the world is ending. And I have this amazing support system. Yeah. And it feels like I'm not even allowed to feel this sadness because I shouldn't, because this other thing is going on. More than one feeling can exist at the same time. More than one thing can be going on at the same time. That I feel miserable about this, and that's true. And then once I've felt those feelings, I will have that support system to come back to. But right now, this is what's taking my attention. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean you're not a happy or grateful person. It just means that right now, this is what I need to deal with.
I'm going to try and apply that more to my own life. I think sometimes I can like compartmentalize, like in ways that I think help me, but also in negative ways like that. Like sometimes I can find myself being like, oh, I'm so frustrated, I'm so upset, I'm so this. But then I forget that actually, no, 40 minutes ago I was happy until this email came through. Like 2 days ago I was happy until I had to deal with this thing. And then like learning to shift my perspective, I think is definitely something I'm going to take away, because hearing you say that, I think, I'm guilty of that sometimes, just letting one emotion take over me without acknowledging that actually I could be experiencing several simultaneously. On the topic of relationships, I've met your fiance. She's wonderful. I love seeing you happy. I'm so happy for the both of you.
Thank you.
You are someone who comes across, like I said, super optimistic, and you not even comes across, you are a happy, joyful, reflective, optimistic person. When it comes to navigating love, if you're someone who's quite optimistic, do you think it's important to be with a fellow optimist? Or do you think that love can exist with someone who's more of a realist or a pessimist? Do you think that matters when it comes to choosing a partner?
Not necessarily. I think there are so many things that you don't know how well they function until they're in practice.
Okay.
One of the things that, because obviously I live my life and I am constantly aware of all the wonderful things I am and have because I'm with Tiff, and all the things that Tiff has given me in my life and all the ways that I've changed for the better.
Oh.
One of the most affirming things that I get back from Tiff is that she says she feels like a much more positive and optimistic person from being with me.
So you've rubbed off on her.
Yes.
Was she always optimistic and positive?
I think she is. Tiff has very high standards for herself.
I love
and
that.
doesn't sing her own praises very much, which is why I think she was put with the person who always will. If you don't do it, I will do it.
You're going to be her
very
biggest
loudly.
cheerleader.
But I don't think she would have always said that she is. And in terms of people who are willing to do, I mean, you say I'm reflective. One of the best examples she sets for me is how willing she is to do work on herself. She's always working on something.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Which is wonderful, but equally, when you're always working on something, sometimes
When do you rest?
And when do you actually sit down and say, Joe, in these areas I'm good enough, which is where it's nice for me to be able to. So actually, I think in that sense, Tiff is definitely very much a realist, who is a very happy person, generally skewed towards optimism, but is very much a realist. So her being a realist, me being an optimist, works really well, because it's like, okay, you've been real enough, can't be happy. You deserve this.
Can't be happy. You know what? I thought I was an optimist until I got with Taiwo. I thought I was an optimist. Then I met someone who's like a real optimist.
That is a happy man.
Oh my God. And then I was like, wait, maybe I'm a realist, because I often having discussions with him and he's like, yeah, everything will be fine, everything will be working. Like literally, we could be in, I don't know, it could be zombie apocalypse, right? People could be around us. Everyone's being gnawed left, right, center.
Not
like, like they're being gnawed left, right, center. We're seeing bombs go off. Cars are crashing into each other. I genuinely think that in that chaos, he will find something to be optimistic about. Like, I'll be like, oh no, we need to run. We need to hide. We could die. Oh my God, this is awful. We need to this. And he'll be like, Toni, relax. Everything will work out. It's okay. It's be fine. Be optimistic. Da, da, da.
I feel like in that scenario, you two could have been on the run for a month. He's like, but look how the cardio has improved.
No, literally, there's a silver lining. And for the longest, I thought I was an optimist. And then being with him and having certain discussions, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm a realist with a sprinkle of optimist, because he says things and I'm like, can we bring it back to earth, please? Let's bring it back to earth. Let's really think about the logistics of this. Is this realistic? Is this possible? Can we achieve this? Let's plan this out. And he aim for the stars. But I do feel like we balance each other out, which is kind of like what you said with you and Tiffany. You allow her this space to rest and be joyful and celebrate herself and be happy. And then she's probably the person who says, okay, I love your happiness, but babe, we need to worry about this that needs to be sorted out at home, and we need to worry about X, Y, Z, and we also need to plan this for the future. And that balance is quite beautiful. But yeah, hearing you say that made me think, like, actually, am I an optimist? No, because I've realized after meeting an optimist, I'm definitely a realist. I want to ask you a question about your background. This is just me being nosy and curious. Because obviously, like, we are both, we both have African parents, right? We are of African origin. And I'm sure you get this a lot. The way you are does not fit the stereotype, right? In your willingness to be vulnerable, willingness to love out loud, willingness to be so joyful, unfortunately, it can feel sometimes like African men aren't given the space and the opportunities to do that, often through no fault of their own. You mentioned like upbringing, right? And how like sometimes in African parents, I got this too, like, look at your mates, your friends, he's getting A+, you got B, what's wrong with you? Like you grow up in a certain environment where it could breed certain things, right? Whether it's competitiveness, whether it's comparison, or feeling like you have to be strong. A lot of us have parents who immigrated from different African countries, came to the UK and had to start from scratch. And as a result, a lot of us had to be strong.
Yeah.
A lot of us had to support our parents in different ways, emotionally, some people even financially. And that can be a burden. And I think that burden can shape you to be harder, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And you're not as soft because of that upbringing. What about you made you? Like, why are you so willing and comfortable to be vulnerable? You're not someone who ascribes to toxic masculinity at all. And it's very obvious to your community and everyone who follows you. And we love you for that. But how did that, not how did that happen, but who do you think contributed to that? Or what do you think contributed to that?
I don't know that I had a specific light bulb moment, but in principle, it takes a great deal of strength to not do, or to do what you know to be right, even if the people around you don't recognize it to be the right thing. One of my biggest things I always say, because a great deal of the work that I do is based on emotions and how we feel, is that anybody who says they're not an emotional person is kidding themselves. You're not telling yourself the truth, because we're all emotional. Everything has an emotional root. If you're going for a certain job, you are dating a certain person, it all comes down to what you want for your life emotionally. Like everything is traced back to an emotional root. To deny the reality of emotions existing just means that they will spill out in ways that I'm not in control of and that I don't understand. The greatest favor I can do to myself and everyone around me is to acknowledge and accept my own emotions. And one thing my mum used to say to me when I was younger, which is one thing that's constantly in my head, is that you don't know the example you're setting for other people by sharing and showing your emotions. For me, realizing that being emotional is an act of strength, and being able to show that you're emotional, especially as a man, especially as an African man, is an act of strength, I'd say that's the thing that completely shifted my perspective to, actually, why wouldn't I do this? Not living like this would be inauthentic, and I'm too strong to not be authentic. When I was in university, when I was in my third year of university, one of my good friends took his own life. And we made a lot of progress in terms of talking about male mental health and telling men to open up. But it's one thing to tell someone to open up. It's another thing to facilitate it. And for them to even, as you said, through no fault of your own, you've reached your 20s and have never spoken about how you feel on a regular basis. Where do you even start? How do you even start? What does that even look like? For whatever reason, I'm in a position where I feel comfortable doing it. I feel comfortable showing people how I feel and sharing it. And my talents lie in areas where I'm articulate. I can communicate my ideas well. So for me, it's bigger than myself. It's bigger than myself to do it. And when I kind of realized that I can make some kind of difference, I don't even have to do anything other than actually have the strength to be myself authentically and regularly. How can I not at that point? How can I not? And one of the biggest things that I've realized is that sometimes you're not aware of a need existing until you facilitate people taking advantage of that need, if that makes sense. Every time I do something that provides a space for people to talk about how they feel, especially men, the demand is so clear. The demand is so clear and so open. It's just that there hasn't been the space for it before. And even now, like as you said, I'm not, say when I was growing up, if you'd put a person who is the way I am in front of certain relatives or whatever and said, this is how David is going to be, they would have been happy with that. But them seeing it exist and seeing it exist in a way that objectively they can be proud of, as in I have a really solid career, but based on things that I value highly. And I think a lot of it is fear-based as well. It's like, if you're like this, no woman is going to want to marry you. No one's going to want to come here, all of that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of that in our community.
There's a lot of it. But here I am. None of those things are true. And you can see it quells a lot of fears and then leads to a level of introspection where it's okay, this actually can exist. If I could be like this, what would that look like? And it's sometimes just a case of showing what's possible, showing what alternatives are possible. I don't have any hold on to any anger or resentment or anything like that about not feeling like I could be that way when I was younger, because this very much in my 20s when I've been confident enough to really be the way I am on the scale that I do. I don't hold any resentment though, because I understand exactly where it came from. It's just I see and have seen the damage of it. And I know that we all deserve better. We all deserve liberation and freedom from that kind of mindset, because it doesn't do any of us any favors in the long term.
What would you say to the people listening that feel like, okay, I'm a bit stuck in a rut. I don't always feel happy. I feel like a lot doesn't work out for me. How can I feel a bit happier?
I'm going to give one practical and one philosophical. The practical: do not look at your phone for the first half an hour after you wake up.
Oh, you are talking to me right now.
Genuinely. Because a lot of these processes, a lot of these things come down to, how do I feel? When there's no interference, there's no external noise, how do I feel? And just the practical act of the first half an hour of my day is mine. Like, there's nobody else's. It's not someone's opinion on Instagram. It's not something I've seen somewhere else. No, there's no influence. What thoughts exist in my head, first thing. And even just having an understanding of it. They don't have to be positive thoughts. It doesn't have to be, you can wake up and genuinely not feel great. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely fine. But at least you know.
Yeah.
And from a place of knowledge is where you can work on things like that. The philosophical one, the bigger one, is the reminder that you already matter. The work you're doing, everything that you're doing to be better and to change is from a place of love and optimism and wanting better for yourself, which you should. You already matter. You don't need to qualify for happiness. You already matter. The happiness is there. It might be there on the smallest scale, but it's there. And the sooner you're able to notice it, the more you're able to notice it, the more frequently we're able to be happy. And happiness is what you deserve. Don't anyone tell you any different.
What a fabulous guest. Producer Nisha.
My cheeks hurt from smiling so much.
You are absolutely wonderful, David. I want you to please let people know where they can find you.
You can find me on any social media platforms. My Instagram is David Larbi, TikTok David Larbi _ YouTube is David Larbi, and then I've obviously just written my first book, which is called Frequently Happy. Lovely Toni is holding it now, and you can find that anywhere you buy your books. Yeah.
Please support David. Please buy his book. He's absolutely amazing, and this book is gonna enrich you in so many different ways. And also, if you're on Audible, I know that, David, you share your mindful moments on Audible, so please give them a listen. They're fantastic. David, you've been a fantastic guest. We have to have you back. You are so wonderful. Keep being you. Keep doing what you're doing and setting this amazing example. And thank you so much for coming on Toni Told Me.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.